Where was all the brown belts last night anyway?
Why are we talking about this without recording?
We actually are recording.
Oh,
are we?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine then. Yeah, where was all the brown belts last night?
I went to the zoo.
Oh.
Went to Marvel Glow.
that's where one
that's
was.
cool, yeah.
Which was banging.
Yeah.
Ripley flipping loved it.
Oh, I did see them pictures actually of a year ago. That was cute.
Yeah.
That was very
That
cute.
was nice, yeah.
Ripley loved it.
Where were you?
I was up in a loft.
Oh, there was literally no
cables in.
brown belts on the mat yesterday.
You'll be happy to know I electrocuted myself yesterday.
Oh, good. I did that the other
Yeah.
week. It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, I forgot to turn the breaker off, and as I was disconnecting the lights, I was like, oh, whoops.
Yeah. I did mine on a main incoming power.
Yeah.
I thought it felt quite nice.
It's not too bad, is it? It's just a bit of a tingle.
Yeah. That's why you can see why people are into it.
Yeah.
Attaching their nipples to electrodes and...
I soon found out that I didn't need to turn off the breaker because I did it myself.
Yeah, if you touch it, it'll trip the breaker off, yeah.
So, problem solved, didn't have to get down.
You are the breaker.
I am the breaker.
Anyway, this is not jiu-jitsu related.
At all.
So this is episode 8?
9.
9? Is it?
You fucked it.
Sorry. Retake. So this is episode 9.
Yeah.
Well, we'll start how we always start. John, how you been?
Great. No, I'm all right. Just a bit stressed. Not training. Got too much going on. So
You should really make a time. You should at least train once a week.
I need to. When I don't train, I definitely get a lot more frustrated, and what's the word for it? When something doesn't go right with something, I get
Short fuse.
Yeah, I got a lot shorter fuse, and I can get a bit snappy when things don't go to plan. So I'm all over the place at the moment.
You training today?
No.
What? Not at all.
No.
Oh right.
I can't. I've got a massage at 12, and then I have to go to Tilehurst afterwards to do a job, and then I have to go back to the unit to continue making that, because I've got 2 full wraps to do starting Monday, and I can't have a messy unit.
Oh okay. Fair.
And it's an absolute tip at the moment. Downstairs is covered in sawdust.
Business comes first normally, I suppose.
Yeah.
So.
And my account's looking very, very low right now.
Oh God, get it all out, John.
So will you be training on Thursday, though?
I'm going to try to, but probably not.
Oh.
Okay.
Saturday?
Currently. I am trying my best to make sure I go to Sub Club on Sunday, because I haven't been to one of those in a long time, and they're doing the big mat space.
Oh, maybe I might.
So he's prioritising something else instead of us.
Well, it's a Sunday,
And
so
our
I'll
club.
try and not do much on a Sunday.
Well, there is a class on a Sunday at Newbury.
That you could go to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
to support
I
the
don't want
community.
any
This is awkward.
teaching, I just want to roll.
Oh, sorry, Arthur.
Yeah, sorry.
You're
Arthur.
obviously not good enough for him.
I just need some rolls to just get it out. But
Yeah, that's fair enough.
For the good of your mental health, we might have to stage a kidnap on Thursday.
An intervention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we'll just turn up at my work and just pull me away.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
If not, we'll just get everyone from the gym to just storm your unit.
But no, it's getting there. It's looking good. Got the walls up and stuff, so
Nice.
just putting cables in.
So it potentially might make an appearance on the Jude Idiots like YouTube /page, because I think that potentially it might be a space where we can then record, actually video record.
So I'm planning on putting in the corner. We'll be able to set up with like coffee table, sofa, probably our logo on the wall as well, so we can record there and actually have video,
Yeah, nice.
which will be nice.
Nice.
So-
Sam, how are you? How's life? How you been?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. So I am all right. The whole family unit is doing all right. It's been a bit stressful. Catherine's had some kind of health stuff that didn't really turn into anything, but kind of ongoing. So it's always a bit stressful when you aren't kind of feeling 100% or someone else isn't feeling 100%. But generally fine. Been training quite regularly, which is quite nice and good. So the opposite of John.
And your new class starts today.
Ooh.
Yeah. Well, it actually started last Tuesday because Bernie...
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah. So that was actually cover. That was supposed to be Bernie's last class last Tuesday, where I was...
Late.
But only 2 minutes late in the end.
Oh, that's not too bad.
So it's all right. But it, actually starts this week, so today. But we're starting this slightly earlier, so...
Yeah, you've got plenty of time.
I think I'll be all right.
If you're late to this one today because of this, then we have gone on some tangents.
Yeah. So that's good. And I know not just teaching, but not just training, but teaching as well is good for my self-esteem, mental health, all that stuff as well. So it's been really nice to get a slot back on.
Because the mornings just don't work for you, do they?
No, they don't. Ripley
So it looks
gets
like
up.
it's not a cover class anymore.
I think it's your class now, John.
You reckon?
No. You'll be all right when Ripley goes off to school or university.
Oh, so you got... So just if you could just cover it for a few more years.
A few more.
Yeah.
All
I'll
right.
be back when my 18-month-old leaves home.
Yeah.
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 Which in today's day and age could be around 27.
Yeah.
Maybe longer.
Just time-wise and getting up and getting Ripley up and everything done is just, the lunchtime slots are good. So
Works well for you.
Tuesday lunchtime slot, if you want some true magic, come on down.
Glitter throw in.
That's
a
right.
back take.
There's no context to that, but
If you were there, you know.
if you were there, you know. So generally I am fine. The fact I'm training as much as I can, given my schedule and stuff, helps with everything, really. So take note, John.
I try.
You make time.
I try and make time.
Try harder. And how
And
you?
actually, just can I make a point from last week? You both said that you were going to get ill because I had a cold last week, and you both sound in full health.
He thought I was ill.
Oh.
I came in with a snotty nose, but that's because I just walked through town.
Oh,
and it's cold.
It's cold.
Yeah, so you are fine. You're not ill. You didn't catch it.
No,
Not yet.
There we go.
not yet. Been sat in this room with you. Been training together.
Yeah.
Nothing.
And I didn't get a sty.
Some would say you could be faking it.
Faking it, making it.
And how are you, Mason?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Work picked up?
It won't now. Christmas is on the horizon. The phone's dead. No one will really be... Actually, to be honest, that's a lie, because I've got to go and look at like 3 jobs today. So I don't know why. But until I don't count it until I'm like on the ground working. So
Do you tend to get deposits for jobs?
yes, we have to, because we book out for such a large amount of time. If we didn't, and then like a week before someone pulled out, we'd be fucked, to be honest. So yeah, we have to. But yeah, good. I think we're after next. I think from Monday we'll be so from when this podcast goes out, I think we're on the 4-week countdown then for baby being born. So had a few slightly stressful episodes with that on the weekend. So I think we went up the hospital again on Friday just to get Brooke just gets hooked up to some machine and they just tell us everything's all right. So yeah, apart from that, I've been training quite a lot. Yeah, life's pretty normal.
Is the house ready for a baby?
Nope. That's why I've glossed over that.
Yeah.
I've got a lot to do. Yeah, no, not too much. Kitchen's nearly done. I did like a extension on my house, and then the extension led to a new kitchen, and then the new kitchen led to like redecorating the living room and putting new carpet down, and yeah, I've got to try and reel her back in a bit. But yeah, so yeah, all good, getting there.
Nice.
So no one's 100% then in terms of nothing's all amazing.
Sounds like a running theme.
Yeah,
Sunshine Rainbows.
That's quite an interesting thing because really weirdly, I watched this guy on YouTube and he, it's a bit strange actually. He's like a farmer, but for some reason I just watch his videos. Anyway, he's like does all this stuff about like mental health and stuff, and he always ends his video by like he asks people like how are you as a percentage, so like out of 100% how would you say you are. It's quite interesting to see what people's, because like some people are like, oh, I'm 40% today, and to me I'd be like, oh Jesus, that's like
that's pretty decent.
well no I'd say that's like bad, you know, that's quite low. I'd say I fluctuate around 70%.
You reckon? Well, like today, do you reckon you're 70?
Yeah.
What percentage do you think you would be?
Today,
bearing in mind that I've just walked into your office.
you can't go 100.
No, you could never go 100.
I'm in pretty good place at the minute. Nothing obviously is ever perfect, and
No.
if it was, I think we'd all feel a little uncomfortable. It'd be like, oh, are we in the Matrix now?
Yeah.
So I'm floating around an 80 today, actually, because I don't have a cold. I'm in good health. I don't have any like specific injuries, just the regular stuff. So yeah, John.
I don't know, probably like 50, 60.
Yeah. It's quite low.
Yeah.
It's quite low. I think you need a few rolls in your life.
I need to get some rolls in.
Yeah.
That'll boost me back up.
It will.
Like
But talking about
roll.
injuries, I did get an injury yesterday.
Uh-oh.
Did
Doing
you?
what? Not training?
Going to pick up some wood, and the guy I was with, James, he drove off. So he was like, oh, funny. Went to open the door and jump in, but then he started driving again, then slammed on the brake.
Oh.
Face just smashed the dash, and then my wrist just like buckled against the dashboard, and my wrist is just so sore now.
Oh no.
He's like sat there for a good like 5 minutes, couldn't leave the car park because he was just laughing so much.
I'll show you a video. I don't know if anyone's ever seen it. There's a really funny one. Like it's like on the Tools website or whatever, and there's a guy that's like does that, and he's like driving along, and mate's trying to get in, and as he jumps in, he's like slams on the brakes and he headbutts the windscreen and smashes the windscreen. It's funny. I found it funny.
So Catherine follows an Instagram page called Savage Paramedics.
Hey.
And so it's all the kind of emergency services community, and there's often like these horrendous pictures of some injuries or whatever.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that people have taken on their actual jobs, because that's obviously you can't take a
selfie.
picture of someone in an RTC and then stick it on Instagram. But and there's pictures just from what John was saying of people who put their feet up on
Oh yeah.
the dash
And the airbag
as they're
goes off.
driving along as a passenger.
Yeah.
Obviously you wouldn't do this as the driver, but
Try me.
if you and if you then obviously have a crash and the airbags go off or someone goes into you,
Yeah.
just it's horrendous. You can imagine people just get completely folded in half.
Yeah, I've seen
Femurs
that.
go up into stomach cavities.
Yeah, like their
and-
knees just snap, don't they? Instantly just snap.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
both Catherine and I used to do that when we were in the
Yeah.
car, and now we're like, no,
Never.
never again.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Talking about knees snapping, I've always wondered, like, if you had like a pensioner train jiu-jitsu, like what would actually happen to their leg if you actually like pulled on like a straight ankle lock or something?
I
Do you
don't
think
know.
it just
That's
like puff into pieces?
So I can
or
answer
what?
this kind of.
Can you?
Not that I've ever done it.
from experience.
No, but again, because with her job, Catherine goes to a lot of old people. Obviously, as you age, you basically begin to die after 30. I think.
Do your bones just start
You
to
go
like
downhill.
deteriorate?
So obviously, the bones becomes like more brittle, so easier to break. The ligaments and obviously stuff starts to kind of calcify, that's why you get stiff and stuff like that. But your skin gets really, really, really delicate.
Yeah.
So
That would be a mess then.
if an old person, even just a bash or like something kind of pulls the skin too hard, the skin can like really easily damage their skin.
Yeah.
So it's pretty easy to injure them. So,
On a-
but depending on the person, right? Because like conditioning, of your skin. If it's an old person who's been doing jiu-jitsu all of their adult life, let's say, your skin's going to be in really good nick and they're going to be in really good nick. But it's when
your joints will just be absolutely battered.
Yeah. But it's when you stop, isn't it, that you become delicate. That's why a lot of people, when they stop actually doing anything, is when they actually die quite quickly.
I'm just going to do a bit of Googling and research because a question's just come into my head as I wonder what the oldest practicing jiu-jitsu player is. So talk amongst yourselves.
I reckon mid-70s.
Yeah, throw some guess. No, older than that.
You reckon?
Yeah, because I do know. I saw a video on Instagram quite a while ago of like someone that was like 80 and they were getting their blue belt.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, it depends though, because it depends how you roll with someone.
Smother.
That's like that. Little person, smother. Big person, smother. Really old guy, smother.
I haven't done a smother in a good 2 weeks, I think.
It's just, well, you haven't been to training in a week.
I've taught.
You can't smother if you don't train.
Very true.
So, but yeah, it depends how you roll with them, because you can make allowances and you can protect each other when you roll, because we all do that to some extent.
Yeah.
Whether it's a kid or an old person, so everyone can train as long as you've got trustworthy and capable training partners around you to look after your stuff.
So I don't know. I was just thinking actually that probably. I'm wondering if one of the Gracies is probably one of the oldest.
Oh well, yeah, because it's whoever's been doing it for the longest amount of time.
But there's a guy. There's a guy here that's 82 and he was promoted to black belt in 2020.
Nice.
So that's pretty. So if you said, so he's 82 and got his black belt, they say roughly 10-year journey, don't they, to black belt? So I guess he would have started around potentially he could have started years ago, but as in, say he only picked it up when he was 60s or 70s.
So I'd suspect he was training for longer because obviously, well,
you don't know.
If you put enough time onto the mat, if you're
retired, you could just train all the time.
You're then similar in your time availability to the kids who are 16 to 20, who probably still live with their parents and don't have to worry about food or doing the laundry or anything, and who can train every day and just do whatever. No other responsibilities. Put a lot of time in.
Yeah.
Could be similar. But the conditioning you'd need as an older person, I think, would be greater. And the risk of injury would be, up there.
100%.
I don't know.
Yeah, 100%. But I think you'd just train differently, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Sorry, that's just put my phone right near the mic and it's just made a noise. Yeah, you'd just train differently. That's why I think that when we spoke about was it me and you, John, or was it all of us, about the different levels now to years ago? And
I think it was you and me.
Yeah, because that would definitely be you look at. So I've just been reading a book by Rickson Gracie.
Hickson.
Yeah, I'm not.
You don't say that R.
I'm not Portuguese. Come on. I'm British.
How much do you weigh? 250. You're about 6'4".
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Clean shaven head.
Yeah.
Tattoos all over my face.
Yeah.
And what was I saying?
You've been reading his book.
Yeah, and I've lost my train of thought.
You can read.
Yeah. Is it his book that's called Breathe?
Audiobooks.
That's because you can't read.
Yeah. I just hate it.
Is it his book that's called Breathe?
Yeah, I suspect so.
Yeah. That's about all I've got to say on that now because you've distracted me. Sorry.
So Mason can read.
Yeah.
What
was I saying?
We haven't been cancelled yet after your racist tirade last time.
Yeah, that's
You need to rein that in a little bit.
So that's quite good.
There's nothing wrong with them.
I'm sorry. No, that's what I was going to say. Just let me talk.
We'll have to pick a different demographic to attack.
Portuguese.
This week.
He was considered best in the world, wasn't he? what sort of year would it be like when he was fighting with like Yuki and stuff on the Vale Tudo?
That was probably early 90s, I think.
Yeah. So at that time, well, he was so for, like reading the book, like he was considered like the best in the world then. But the rule set was very different, and they didn't really have like just grappling matches. Sort of, it wasn't really a thing then, and so now that we're training, not we, but you know, like now that jiu-jitsu is training just grapplers, the level of grappling is going to be 10 times better than it was back then. Because surely, I don't know, because you'd be worried about you're still going to be worried about getting punched an elbow to the face.
There's an ongoing conversation, I think, within the community about, is that diluting jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, so we had this conversation
grappling?
where we said, like, is a blue belt of today, or a really high competitive blue belt of today, just as good as the best black belts?
But it's a bit, it's almost apples and oranges, because like you said, they were training for essentially going into like an MMA style event.
Because it was before MMA, wasn't it? Well, not before MMA as such, but before like any UFC or...
Yeah, and so the style of their grappling would have been so different. And you can feel it now when you spar with a guy who's done a bunch of MMA but hasn't done jiu-jitsu per se, or straight jiu-jitsu or anything in a gi or something. They've probably got good pressure and intensity, better kind of a no-gi wrestling game, but then you start putting them in Spider Guard and they're like, I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, well, the gi changes everything.
Yeah, so it's different.
When you're saying about the pressure and stuff, it's like when we had Yuki over and he demonstrated a technique on me. I was just like, this guy feels like it's 120 kg, but I know he's lighter than me.
But that's the
pressure is just so
interesting
different
thing, though, isn't it? Because he was a similar era of that. He trained for those.
Yeah.
Is it how do you say it properly? Vale Tudo.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. So he trained for those matches, and
like everyone he fought on Choke, that event
was bigger than him. Yeah,
massively bigger.
Yeah.
I think one guy he tried to armbar and the guy just lifted him up off the floor, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was like different time. He would have been able to like pick him up and literally just slam him on the floor. Like,
So he's also got a background of judo.
Yes.
And obviously, when you train with someone who's a judo black belt but hasn't specifically trained jiu-jitsu, it's all contextual, isn't it? Because when they get you in a pin on top, you're like, fuck my life.
Yeah.
But if you start scrambling and they turn and give you their back, it all changes like that. So,
but that's why IBJJF said that anyone who's black belt in judo has to compete at blue belt, don't they? And I think it's the same for if you've had a pro MMA debut or potentially more than 10 years training MMA, you have to then compete at blue belt as well.
Yeah.
Just because, say it correlates so much, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Judo and jiu-jitsu. And judo, did you know, in Japanese means the gentle way.
Really?
Wow. Yeah. And jiu-jitsu means the gentle art in Japanese. We're learning.
Every day's a learning day.
Yeah. Actually, that's my thing. I'm gonna bring to the table. Every episode, I'm gonna learn a new Japanese word, and then by the time we ever finish this, I'll be fluent in Japanese.
Fair.
That's when we do the Yuki episode.
Yeah, and I'll be able to translate.
And you can be the translator.
This is your way of redeeming yourself for being racist.
Anyway. So Sam had a good point that he was just talking about before we started recording.
Yeah. Should we do that as the main kind of topic?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it got cut from my episode.
And then we did try and talk about it last episode, and then we got distracted again, I think.
Similar but different thing. It was a question of how do you roll, because I roll a lot of the time with, which I guess is a reflection of like who you are as a person anyway, but like I'm very aware of the other person, and so I have the ability, because I've been training for like quite a long time. I'm not the smallest person in the gym, but I'm on the kind of smaller end of the scale, so I don't have the extra size to scale back, but I do have experience. So, and for a lot of people in our gym, they're either smaller or not as technical or, you know, advanced, and so you have the ability to scale yourself back. And like in a video game, you set the difficulty to the right amount of challenging to maximize the learning and enjoyment of the other person. And obviously you still get to really try and implement skill, because it's like, if I can scale my strength all the way down, how much skill do I need to make a sweep or a submission work?
Well, I guess that's like I mean, I don't know. People say this all the time, and they always say that jiu-jitsu's for the small guy. What's the other thing that I always hear that I'm just like, oh, fuck off. I can't remember it exactly, but it's like, it basically, people always say like you should be able to beat strength with technique and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I just, maybe because I'm not at the level yet, because
I think
obviously
it's true to a certain extent, because like if you're against someone who doesn't know what they're doing, it's going to work, isn't it? Against
not necessarily though.
Well, if you go against like the strongest man in the world, then probably not. But.
Exactly, but that's it. So like, everyone always says this, and then you'll have like a big new guy start, you know, 6 foot like rugby player build or whatever, and he doesn't have to know anything. I think you sort of touched on this, John, about how when you first started, you knew that if you just sat on someone, you're pretty much going to be able to pin them down. Yeah. So I just don't think that, again, this is probably talking from my experience, because I'm obviously very low down in the ranks, and
I wouldn't say low down.
Yeah, but you know what I mean, like
you're a peasant.
But if you've got a big guy that knows nothing else and he can get on top of you,
it's going to be a struggle.
It's going to be a struggle, and like the best amount of technique that you can pull. I always find that the people that say those things about, oh, you know, technique beats size and all this bollocks, probably going to get shot down for this, but they're always the bigger guys that are like the brown belts or the black belts.
So it's interesting, because I think it's true, but only to an extent.
Yeah.
So the skill to strength and size discrepancy has to be greater. So you have to have a greater, say 60% greater amount of skill to beat 20% a bigger, stronger person.
Yeah.
So like the benefit of being bigger and stronger is like the amount of skill you have to negate that is so much greater, I think. And just the big, strong people, especially when they start learning a little bit, like how to have good base and intention, gets really difficult.
It's like when you first started, John, I think you almost had the advantage of being bigger.
But I think for me, it was the case also, the whole room was white belts. So
Yeah.
I didn't get to experience the whole thing of like against
That's
a lot
true,
higher
actually,
levels. Yeah. And I think it's the way you approach it as well, because obviously I'm not a normal person, but I have gone against people much bigger than me, and instead of trying to fight them as if they are your size, you've got to approach it differently and go into like a survival mode and wait for like a perfect opportunity for a sweep.
That's exactly it. And I think, are you better at that strategic kind of a game because of your experience as a brown belt?
Yeah.
Because so it's not the techniques, but it's how you go about it. So like if there's a big guy, sometimes I'll do it to kind of train that part of my game, but I'll quite often, if I don't fancy being smashed, I will make it my goal to get on the top or to the back. So even if I pull guard, I'll pull probably one of my stronger guards with the aim specifically of getting to the back so I don't get smashed, instead of just trying my normal game. And I think that's a strategic thing, not a technique. And I think I wonder if that comes with experience, because obviously,
because you've always been very good at against like bigger people, getting into like a deep half, and getting right tight, small ball underneath them. So it's hard for them to press you, and then you can get the sweep and be on top. Yeah,
which is an active choice, because it's going to be, that's easier, or I can. That's probably where I will be using the least amount of energy, instead of getting on top of them, because then they're so strong and so big. I have to be either really focus on the structure of a pin or the position, or be active on top. Both of those use quite a lot of energy. Whereas if I can go to deep half or lockdown and basically coast until it's time to take the back,
waiting for that opportunity.
Yeah, but if I did that as a blue belt, I would probably just get smashed. And it's important to say, a lot of the time I do still just get smashed, because I don't have the tension, or I'm not turned enough on my hip, or the person on top is getting good and they just think, no, I know what this is, because we've trained with the same people over and over, and they're like, I'm not going to let you get deep enough into the half guard. I'm just going to get you smushed on top, and that can happen.
And I think that like transfers over to bigger guys rolling with smaller guys. Of that, if you're a bigger guy and you've got like a good top game, good pressure, good and you're passing guard and you're staying on top or whatever, I think to develop yourself, you have to be like mentally, like, you're quite good at this, John, to be fair. I will compliment you there. That you can't, I mean, sometimes you will just literally smother me, but we sort of know that's like banter, if you know what I mean. But when I roll with bigger guys and they just like, they'll get on top and they'll just pin me on top, and they'll just be like transitioning like on top and pinning me down. I'm struggling, they're not struggling, but I almost think, what are you getting out of this, doing this to me, if you know what I mean? Like, the same as I want to change my game to have more of a top game. If you're a bigger guy and you can just pin people, you need to almost then transition yourself to be like, oh, what's the point in this? Like, why am I just pinning this guy down? Like, when you're same weight, when you go to competition, of course, play your A game, isn't it? You know, if you're good at top game and the guy's in your weight bracket, so it's like, this is all sort of matched, skill levels matched, weights matched, everything. But yeah, when you're just in the gym, and I find it, people start to develop quicker and you have a lot funner roles when sort of like, I found it when I sort of came into blue belt and rolling with the other blue belts, because everyone's working on their own thing and you sort of like, you're moving, so you don't have that like white belt sort of like stiff, I'm just going to stay here and pin you down, or if they're on the bottom, they just stay there. When you're both like moving and working on your own thing, it like starts to make the roles like flow.
That's something I think, and maybe we'll get someone with a question or a comment or whatever, but I think to begin with, that's really difficult as a white belt, because you don't have all the pieces
and the skills,
so you have to go to what you actually know, and not everyone has like, I think people reach a point, and I've certainly noticed it in a few of the white belts recently, and I've tried to say to them, because I think it's really good to be acknowledged is that you can tell when someone doesn't have the position of gaps anymore, because sometimes people will get to a position and they'll kind of just stop because they don't know what to do
move,
from there.
Yeah.
But when people link it up, obviously you've got all the gaps of things you don't know, like submissions or transitions, sweeps, stuff like that. But people know where to go, and there isn't a stopper point. There's always, I can go here next, here next, here next, here next. And I think that's a real turning point for people. It's like it's similar to like a video game where you've explored all the parts of your map. You haven't been into all the little caves or whatever, so that you don't have the actual depth there, but you've explored the whole of the map. And I think you can tell when people have done that.
But that's like the like white belt cusp to blue belt thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
I think so.
You've got, I don't know who you two might know, but somewhat with jiu-jitsu, like we don't have like a syllabus or like a structured grading. It's essentially, it's like one man's is discretion the right word?
Yeah, it's your instructor's opinion.
Yeah, of when
really.
you're ready for the next belt. But someone or some group of gyms or whatever, they have done like kind of like a syllabus, and I've seen a video on it.
Roy Dean does, doesn't he?
Is it? It might be.
He
yeah,
does do. Yeah,
and he basically
at the earlier stages.
Yeah, that's it. I think it was white belt to blue belt and blue belt to purple belt that he did like a video on it. It might be that guy. I'm not sure, and he's essentially saying like from white belt to blue belt, really you should know the basics. I could be getting this wrong, but I'm sure it was like you should know like the basics, and then you should know like at least one or two submissions and sweeps from each of the main dominant positions.
Yeah.
See, for me, I think white belt's just all about survival.
Well, this is it, isn't it? You're building your survival game, but that survival game leads into, so like when you're in, you've rolled in and it's getting a bit scrappy. You've got them into your close guard, and then all of a sudden you hit like a sweep, and you're on top. That is the survival, because you're no longer on the bottom position anymore. You've swept him and you're on the top, and that's it. They say, white belt's survival, isn't it? Blue belt's like learning, and so on and so on. But yeah, I agree. Like I roll with some of the higher level white belts now at Newbury, and I'm like, their game is like, it's all of a sudden very difficult to pick apart their little gaps and their where their base is weak, or where they're leaving space for you to get your knee in, or like an underhook or something. And then you think that's the development, isn't it?
That's one thing I've been teaching on the Friday mornings is leg drags. And I taught it ages ago when I first took the class, and like Cam picked up really well, and it worked wonders for him. Like he would go to open mats and that, and just leg drag everyone. And people have said they want to go back and learn the leg drags again. So we started doing that, and I've got a few white belts that come to the Friday mornings, and trying to sort of like, I really try and engage with them in saying like, if you can read where your partner's going, then it makes it so much easier if you can be like 2 steps ahead of your opponent. So like with the leg drag coming round to the back, the only thing they're going to either try and do at that point is turn back into you for side control, or they're going to start to turtle, which opens up the space for the bottom
point
hook.
To that is, what you said there is, but essentially that because you've been training for X amount of years and you're a brown belt, you forget that white belt knows a very, very small portion of what you know. So it seems simplified, doesn't it, for you guys, two as brown belts, to go.
But that's why I try and implement it, to try and make them realise like some things work in like some of the movements work in multiple situations, not just in this one technique, but then also realising the options that are available from this technique. It's like, this is what your partner's most likely going to do from this situation, and then you can read that to go into your next technique from there.
So I think that's the thing, is that, again, as a beginner, I think it's really difficult, because when you're just trying to focus on your own stuff, because you're trying to think so hard of like, what was knee on belly and where do I need to put this hand or whatever, you can't then be concentrating on my my partner's turning towards me, therefore my next steps are X, Y, and Z.
You're still thinking about two moves behind what just happened rather than what's going to happen.
That's the thing. When people then recognise the map, let's say, they aren't going to get into a spot unless you're doing something real jazzy like the truck or some leg entanglement or berimbolo or something that is going to confuse people. They're going to be in a recognisable spot, so they don't have to quite think as much about what should I do from here. You then start automatically doing it, and now you can think, so what can I do instead? What can I do to attack, or what are they doing, and how should I respond to that?
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think that is the top end of the white belt. When, like I say to people as well, it's like, when we have a role, I can feel that you know where you want to go.
Yes.
And I think that's...
You've got your own pathway in your head, and whatever the partner is doing, whether they're white, blue, purple, whatever, doesn't matter. If you have that pathway that you know you want, you're chaining together your links, and everything that the partner throws up is just like a little bump in the road, and you can pass, knee shield, clear the knee shield. I still want to get to north, south, or whatever. It definitely shows.
Yeah, and I think, I can't remember who described it, but I think it was maybe the Art of Skill guy who is a Roy Dean black belt, and I think it was him. It was like, the white belt, you're learning the words. As a blue belt, you're learning the sentences. As a purple belt, you start learning to make an argument with those sentences. As a brown belt, you're now essentially having the debate, and you can trick someone into things, and you bait and switch, and like you start to become much more conscious of all of that. And as a black belt, you've basically been doing it for such a long time that your control over the situation, not just kind of physically, but the awareness of your own body, but also the other person's structure and body, and that's how they've kind of described it. And I think that again ties back to the skill, is like, it's not all just physical skill, and to know to do, I'm going to do this technique, and if they do that, then I'll do this. It's the skill of being able to read another person, because I know, say you've got someone who you know their character is such that they're smash, top game, I want to be on top, I want to charge in. Like, if you know that's what kind of person they are, and you have the techniques to deal with that, that's where the skill can come in, because you're like, I know, say, my A game is close guard, but I know this person is really good at just standing up or whatever. Then it's having the awareness to not just go with your own A game, because sometimes it's not going to work. And I had that as a blue belt in lots of competitions, and a white belt, is where you have your A game, but then someone has the answer to your A game.
Yeah,
now what?
But their A game might be the exact thing that you're trying to close you down. So like, if you say you like to pull guard and work off your back, but someone else's A game might be that they have amazing passes from open guards sliding through, and then they like can get to side control and then submit like really quickly or whatever. So yeah. What was your, I think it's quite linked, but you had a question, didn't you, John? Was it to both of us?
Maybe.
Yeah? I just whilst we're talking, I think,
can't remember.
because whilst we're talking about belts and stuff, you said about when you started, did you think you were chasing?
Oh yeah. I felt, I can't remember when it was. There was some point during, I think it was white belt, maybe towards the end of it. I felt like I was chasing something, but I wasn't sure what it was. And then I got to, I think it was like mid-purple, and I was like, this is it. This is what I've been looking for. But I could never pinpoint what it was. But I think it was just knowing a certain amount just to be able to not worry at all and feel like you can hold your own against most belts to a certain extent.
I think it's interesting. Did I say this last time? But it's funny, isn't it? Because that either keeps you turning up, or it makes you quit. Because
the chase,
as in like, because you're getting smashed by the higher belts or bigger guys or whatever, and you either think, I want to learn, I want to be like that, I want to be able to do that, so that I can beat them or the other guys that come up into the gym or whatever. And but that could also make you quit, couldn't it?
Definitely.
That sort of like, oh, am I ever going to get to that level? Like, oh, I've been training for this amount of time, am I ever going to get to the point where I feel comfortable and stuff like that?
So do you get people asking you how much time you've been training for?
Yes.
People ask me that a lot.
Yeah, same, but mine's always a bit of a, I always have to go around, I don't really answer it anymore, because I have to sort of like go around the houses of like, well, I've actually been training on and off for this amount of time, but and then because I don't want people to be like, if I was to say to people, yeah, well, I've been training like 10 years, well, no, it's probably like, I don't know.
Yeah, and then obviously that person thinks,
oh, well, I'm only a blue belt.
He's been training for 10 years
Yeah.
and is a blue belt. But if you spoke to John and you've been training
6.5, I think.
Yeah.
But you've done that consistently.
All in
whereas
the one
I've
chunk.
done probably a few years less than that, but over a massive space of time, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think I was consistent on like 5 days a week and then occasionally 11 days a week.
But
11 times a week.
Do you think that's because they're trying to get a schedule gauge on whatever that
100%.
person personally is?
There's a young lad that trains in the adult class, but he's very young. I think he's just on the cusp of either being in the kids class or the adults class or whatever. And he said to Tom, guy that trains in the gym, like they were paired up. Bearing in mind this guy's, only come for a couple of weeks or whatever. And he was like, he said to Tom, he was like, so when can I expect to get my blue belt? And like Tom, obviously he's another white belt, so it's sort of like an odd question to be asked. You'd expect that question to be asked to either a blue belt or purple belt, whatever, higher. And Tom was just like, oh, I didn't even know, like, I think he said something like, just keep turning up, bro. Like, do you know what I mean?
It's a long journey.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting because I think I know who you mean.
Yeah.
And we get such an eclectic mix of people. And I think there's like an ongoing joke in jiu-jitsu, like in order to be a black belt and a world champion, you need an equal mix of autism and steroids.
Yeah.
Right. That's an ongoing kind of a joke. It is tongue in cheek, but it's also can be quite true. And I think partly is that I think it's probably the most accepting and appropriate, is that the right word? For people, especially people who are on the autistic spectrum, because you get to work out a problem, you get to organize stuff, it's quite personalized to you, and there's lots of elements that are really, really organized. But then so when can I expect a blue belt?
Yeah, as in like almost his brain needs that end goal.
Yeah.
To then keep turning up.
Yeah, and it's partly why the children have lots of extra
and
belts.
stripes.
Yeah.
Grading's like consistent for them because it keeps them turning up.
Yeah, because your actual physical, mental progress is not changing, but your sense of step-by-step progression then I think every belt, and it's as I've gone up the belts, it's but shrunk every time. It's really stupid, but you're like you are partially expecting your jiu-jitsu to change when someone gives you a new belt.
And that's why we always make the jokes, don't we? And when you two got your brown belts, I was like, oh, so when does the magic powers turn up then?
My God, they obviously sent mine with like some crappy choreo and it got lost in the post.
It's a pigeon mail.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just a scale. It's just a sliding there are no steps per se. And I think the longer, it's not the belts, it's the time you've been doing it for. The longer you've been doing it, the more you realise that it just is what it is. And a belt isn't gonna... The thing with a belt is that it doesn't give you any difference in skill. It doesn't give you...
It doesn't give you superpowers.
No. But what it does do is it's an external signifier to other people.
Yeah.
Of he's a, this belt. And therefore... Yeah, it's a weird one because it doesn't change your opinion of your own stuff. It doesn't change your actual jiu-jitsu, but it changes other people's opinion of you.
Yeah.
And if someone came into Newbury a week apart, my jiu-jitsu would be exactly the fucking same. But if someone comes in and sees Sam, the purple belt, and then next week they see you, Sam, the brown belt, you're going to be looked at differently.
Respect my authority.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I think there's a part of that, and that's what people quite enjoy too. And like you said, John, you don't know what you're chasing till you get there, and you don't even get there. It's just like, oh, I've stopped chasing now. You haven't got the magical thing.
No.
You've just got the ability to stop chasing.
Yeah.
And that's it.
So John was saying that you think that you sort of like reached mid-purple belt, you were able to hold your own even when you were going to like other gyms, other open mats, comps and stuff like that. You're like able to hold your own as that belt. So you've, and everyone always says like purple belt is like, you're basically, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like something like you're basically on your road to black belt. You've just got to keep turning up at this point because once most people that reach purple belt will see the end goal, like most. Obviously, some people don't, and you get life stuff in the way in that. But as a rule, that's what they say. Like once you're purple, you're sort of on that road, and normally you'll keep turning up. The most common belts to quit at are white and blue, aren't they?
No.
And so you felt like that was your sort of like, all right, I'm here now.
Yeah.
But Sam, do you think you...
Yeah, what belt was your sort of...
Or are you still on that road? Or did you ever have that?
So, not as much. Obviously, belts are nice. And like I said, they're actually only nice because other people see you and treat you differently.
It's kind of the ego feed.
I'm not afraid to admit that. Like, it's really nice having someone look at you as a brown belt. It's different.
But that's the thing, like with me chasing something, it wasn't the belt as such. It was just, just felt like I was chasing something.
The skill level as such.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. And I think because I started in an environment and training as a child amongst lots of adults, and they didn't do belts or anything like that. It's like if you started boxing or something, they don't do belts or if you're a wrestler, you're just as good as however good you are. And I think that gets ingrained in you that way. And so I think even as a white belt, and even when I started in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu like structure, I'd already done a lot of martial arts, a lot of grappling, and I already had a game, and it was just another structure, and I was already aware of we're all on a scale of skill, not a step by step. And so I don't think I've ever been chasing a belt because I always knew I was just in it. However, it doesn't stop you putting some emotional attachment to a belt. Like I remember there was a week when it was a Jeff seminar, and I think I had 3 stripes on my blue belt, and I remember basically getting my hopes up, which is really stupid. And I was like, well, Jeff's coming down, I've been training really hard recently. Some people do skip a last stripe if you've just not had the stripe given, but you've been training hard. Yeah. And I got my hopes up, and it was just a regular seminar. No one got a belt, and I was just like, oh, okay. And I remember that because I'm like, it's not becoming of you, because like I didn't say anything to anyone. It was only in, like, I didn't say anything to Catherine or anything. I just thought, maybe today's the day. And then it's not. And I think that's another part of it that's quite a good thing, because it shows, like, even though I say, oh, I don't care about the belt, I'm in it because I'm in it, which is true. But I wanted that little bit of recognition. But then I was like, actually, the last stripe period of the belt was actually my most enjoyable part of it, because when you're at that upper end of a belt, you're still that belt level, so people just have that expectation of you, but you get to be quite good at that standard. So I could go to other clubs and be the blue belt who does really well against all the blue belts.
Essentially, what you want to be is, you want to be at the level at your belt that people go, oh, he's not that belt anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had that at the end of blue belt.
Yeah.
Everyone, like, from the other gyms that I trained at and stuff, just everyone was just like, oh, you definitely drew your purple.
Yeah.
Like, where's your purple? It's like, it's not my decision.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Well, this happened to me at white belt.
Yeah.
So I got it really bad at white belt because I'd trained for a long time before. And so, yeah, I had the same thing with people constantly.
Yeah, because I remember you coming to me, we had a chat in the car park about it.
Because I was like, I just said to you, I think I said to you, I was like, oh, this is just getting too much now.
Yeah.
Like every open mat or whatever, people just getting annoyed and making comments and stuff like that. And I don't think, most of the time it was in a jokey way.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're
But when you hear it so much, it turns into... like,
you start having demons in your own head of like, you start thinking, well, everyone else is saying it, but my coach isn't recognising it, so am I actually really shit? Or like, what's the deal? Like,
does he not just doesn't like me?
Yeah. But because it's interesting you saying about, so from you, it's, our journeys are very different now, linked between us three, because obviously where I'm still only, well, I guess just what does two stripes class as like middle of your blue belt? I suppose so. So like I'm sort of like midway through my blue belt, and I have a lot of things coming up in my life, and so I've openly had the conversations with like my coach and people to say like, I don't want, like, because I still feel like I'm chasing something, and I've narrowed it. I think in my head I potentially narrowed it down to like similar to you, John, where it's kind of like my purple belt, but kind of like I want a good skill level, and I don't want to, where I'm coming up to having a baby and stuff like that. And Sam, you know, like your training will completely sort of get turned up on its head, and you know, so I'm trying to have this thing of like I don't want to say I want my purple belt, but I want that to be my goal, but I want to be at a good level.
So it's really interesting this, because just in the way, in general, when people start training, like I think if you statistically looked at it, I think most people would be in their 20s.
Yeah.
And when you start to have children, like a longer term relationship, a marriage or whatever, like all that stuff, when people normally start doing that in their life is probably early 30s nowadays, like certainly in your 30s. And I think there's also a correlation to when you'd probably get a purple belt. And I feel like that's essentially what we're talking about, is that the white belt is like, I've just met this person. You've just met jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And you're like I want to see them all the time. I don't want to see my mates anymore. I just want to do this one thing.
Yeah.
And it's really intense and amazing. Then your blue belt is like, it's still really intense and amazing, but we're moving in together. Maybe you got a dog. Like, it's still like you're living in a happy land, right? And then your purple belt is like when you've been with this person for maybe 6, 7 plus 10 in I think you and I both were with our partners for about 10 years before we asked them to marry us, which again is partly an age thing as well. Like, I feel like I'm ready at that age. And then the work really starts, because you're never gonna, like, that initial spark is never gonna be, it requires the both of you
to work,
because you're both changing and growing. The stresses in your existence are certainly going up, whether it be the house, the kids, the traumatic things happening to you, bad things happening to you. Like, the more risks and the more meaningful dependence you have, the more that starts to drain your energy for this one intense little thing, which is a good thing because you balance yourself all out.
Well, it's kind of, that's a good thing for what I was saying, is like, so I've said I want to use my time wisely always now, so leading up to this next point. So if I can only do one session a week that week,
just know that I've really made the effort to do it.
Yes. Yeah. And not necessarily that. Actually, no, that's probably true. So like, it's a big thing to turn up, but also then to use that hour to be like, right, what do I need to develop in myself, and like what I need to take on board what coach is showing, and then build that, because I'm only doing that 1 hour.
Yeah, and your effort is that, to begin with, it doesn't take any effort to come to training.
Yeah.
Whereas when you have all these other things, whether it's your job or whatever, it's like, I have to now make active attempts to carve time to come to training.
Yeah.
So the amount of effort I have to actually train has gone down from 100%, because I just go whenever I want. I live on my own or with my parents, and I just go.
Yeah.
So I have to make sure everyone else is all right first, and the time schedule works or whatever. And so, and I think that purple belt is like the point at which you basically get from a relationship to, you're basically married to jiu-jitsu now.
Yeah.
And if it seems like the brown belts or the black belts don't care as much about jiu-jitsu, because obviously, like, there's obviously the joke that purple belts don't do the warm-up. The brown belts sometimes don't turn up, and when we do, we don't appear to be taking it very seriously.
That does seem so true.
Yeah.
But it's because you're now really married to it, and you're so comfortable, and you've trained so much that you're beginning to just enjoy it for what it is, and you stop chasing it. And I think the black belt and upwards becomes the married couple, where you're basically two parts of the same, and you're always going to be a part of each other. Even if a black belt stops training, that is still a part of them as a person outside of the gym.
I think that's as well, like when you were saying about the time of actually showing up, like for me, I've always been quite consistent on just always being there, because it's always a running joke, like people just say I just live there, or like, do I sleep there? And then through my purple, being in like a really good relationship and not being there as often as I used to be, there was almost a thing of like, oh, I don't train, but I still always trained. It was just nowhere near what I used to be able to do.
I think it just makes more of an impact when someone that is always there then isn't. Yeah, because I think even people said to you, didn't they, when I was like on my honeymoon or whatever, people were saying, you like messaged me and you were like, Mason, people think you're not coming back. Like,
that's it now.
Yeah. So
that was the same time when you guys were away.
Yeah.
Going through your stuff.
Yeah.
It's like everyone was just like, where's Sam? Like, is he okay and stuff? And it's like, it's not my place to say. I'm just like,
which is really lovely. Yeah. And we've spoken about the fact that to have a community of people that you see on a regular basis is great. If you have to, if you stop, people really notice. And then, but I think you can have too much of literally anything in life. Yeah. And I think you and I have spoken about this a lot, and I think what you have learned from training and the relationships and your job and things that take you away from training is we need to have them be balanced out.
Yeah.
And some people and this, I think you'll admit this was you for quite a long time, is like if jiu-jitsu is everything to you, say you've got these pillars that support you, if jiu-jitsu is the only thing, the only good thing or the only thing going on, if you get an injury or you can't train, you're going to be screwed.
Also, that links to relationships.
Yeah.
Because when it starts to put a strain on a relationship, and when jiu-jitsu is like your life, and you couldn't consider not training it, if a partner, you say you're like a year into a relationship, and then all of a sudden a partner starts to go, could you not skip like Saturday so that we could do something? And it sort of like screws with you a bit, because you're like, oh well, hang on, because I train on a Saturday, and now you're asking me not to train.
That's exactly what happened with me. Like, I was in a good relationship. Like, we're still really good friends now. But I put jiu-jitsu before everything. And it was like, I think we were planning to go away somewhere or do something. And then a seminar got changed to that day. I was like, oh, I can't go now. I've got a seminar.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's one of those things at the time. I didn't think it was a big deal. But then I learnt from it, and I was just like, I can't do those things. I have to realise what's actually important,
so
and
I think
what's always going to be there.
Yeah, you become secure in your relationship to jiu-jitsu.
So I saw a thing the other day. This guy was like, if you already train, so I get this. So if you already train and you meet someone, they should really just grasp the fact that jiu-jitsu is part of your life,
because it's always been a part of who you are as they've known you.
If they can't, then they're probably not the right person for you.
I think that's what you said about most recently.
Yeah, and then, but if you have been with someone and you've been married to someone for like 10 years, then you find jiu-jitsu, that's the difference between the people that are going to train 5 times a week and the hobbyist that's going to train one time a week, because they're just picking it up. They're not going to change their whole life for jiu-jitsu.
Which is difficult when you're in that really intense honeymoon period.
Yeah, because you want to train all the time.
Because it can escalate really quickly. And for people who don't do it or don't understand, that can be quite threatening, like just to your time and your schedule. And it's like, oh, you're getting really intensely into this. And that can be quite kind of disconcerting, I guess. But I think as you progress, it's quite hard to have that level of the maturity, and like it's almost like building your tolerance up to it. If you've been drinking, you have to drink too much in order to know where
your limit is
to stop. And again, we do that when we're in our teenage years, in our 20s, right? Whereas now, I know obviously you guys don't really drink at all, but for me, it's very rare that I drink past my limit. Like, don't worry, it can happen. Catherine will tell you. But
should we talk about Snowden?
That was the day after.
That was the day before.
But it's, you stabilize the relationship you have, so you can enjoy it. You know it's always going to be there, and therefore you don't have to do it every single day. And I think that ties to the attachment you have to the success in sparring, is that you then get to that point where I don't have to win this. I don't even have to make this person tap, or I let them do some work. If they have a very legit submission, they'll tap me. That's totally fine. It's a bit like letting your partner go out for a drink or a catch up with another guy or whatever. It's like you'll get to that security. I trust jiu-jitsu. I trust my partner, and I think if you can get to that stage, you aren't going to feel the need to chase it anymore, because you aren't scared it's going to leave you. But I think your white belt and your blue belt is where you're scared it's going to leave you. Some people still have that all the way throughout. But I think when you get that comfort and trust that it's just always there, it's a part of you, it's fine.
That's what, like, I've always had the thing of I hate feeling like I'm missing out. So I'm always trying to be there every seminar, every class. I don't want to miss like a good time or a good technique or something, so I'm always trying to turn up. and then going through that relationship, I learned a hell of a lot from her, and I've kind of got into a better state of mind of like, it's okay to miss out on some things, and you don't have to be there for everything.
Because you miss out on something else in your life too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's also the other side of that, though, that I would say is that, like I said just a minute ago, is when something is such a big part of your life, the right partner should understand that.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, if anyone comes into your life and then starts to be like, no, you're not doing that anymore. No, like, then that you got to see the red flags and get the fuck out of there. Yeah. Essentially.
Yeah, and that's the maturity to strike a balance.
Yeah, definitely.
And that gets even trickier when you have a baby.
Thanks.
You'll see.
But this is so my point of all of this is that, like, I think it's easier for you guys where I'm blue belt. I don't want to have all these things happen in my life, because where I started training very early, I've had a lot of stuff go on in my life where I've had to stop training for periods of time, and I've met my wife and all that sort of thing, and so because I got stuck at blue belt for such a long time, white belt for such a long time, I think in my head what's creating this like mental thing is that I don't want that to happen at
blue.
So I want to use my time wisely so that it doesn't happen, because I know I'm not going to be able to train as much, but I am still going to make sure I turn up 100%. Yeah. Whereas before, maybe I was a bit more immature, and I would have probably just been like, I'll just quit for 6 months or whatever. But now I'm going to be like, no, I am going to turn up. But yeah, I think that's what it is. I think it's the, I can't feel what the word would be, but the sort of like syndrome of not wanting to be the same person in 10 years time going, so I've been training for like 20 years, but I've still got my blue belt, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Not that it matters, but again, it kind of does matter to you personally.
Yeah.
But it's also good to know, like, especially because, as you say, you've been training like 10 years, it's always going to be there. If you do have to take some time off for like injury or something like that, you can always come back to it. It's always going to accept you and be there.
Yeah. I think the thing with me at this point is that I've been so committed for the last however many years I've been back now that it's like...
You have to make at least like one a week or something.
Yeah, that's going to be your challenge. We all have... It's not really jiu-jitsu challenges, it's something else challenge at every belt.
Yeah.
And obviously I spoke about what happened to me during my purple belt, and I said like that was the easiest belt jiu-jitsu wise, but the most difficult belt for everything else going on. And that can happen, and it happens as white belt, blue belt, everything, whether that be injury, other things. I
was just going to say, like, with this is what we learn from jiu-jitsu, to like stay calm and figure out the problem to find the solution.
Yeah, like, you are about to be smashed by a big guy, mate.
And you have to try and find the solution for it. That's it. And stay calm, controlled.
No hip and shrimps getting me out of this one.
You might just have to stay calm, stay really tight, and just stay your course. Yeah. You won't make any ground up for a while.
Yeah, that's
Remember to breathe.
Thank you, guys.
Life lesson. That might be a good place to leave it.
Yeah, I've got to get going.
Yeah. Shit to do.
3, 2, 1.
Good clap.